Recording with external microphone. System sound volume set for 100%.
Hello everyone. This is my first voice note to you, and I'm Akhlaq Ahmed. So let's start this voice note with a prayer. Let's pray to Allah Almighty that He may bless us all with good health and fitness, and help us get rid of this deadly virus sooner than later. Ameen. Well, dear students, as you are aware that session 2021 has started, and it has started online, and we have 1 month's teaching at our hand. That is from 15th of April to the 15th of May, and we have been instructed to complete the course, which is expected to be covered within 1 month's time. Now, you see, therefore, from now onwards, you would keep getting the relevant study material from me in the form of voice notes every now and then, until we cover poem 1 in our course, that is a lecture upon shadows by John Donne. Well, by the way, I hope you are already aware of the fact that we are meeting for optional English, that is elective English. And as far as elective English is concerned, I'd be doing all the poets with you, except Milton, which is supposed to be taken up by Mrs. Azra Parveen. And the rest of the course is expected to be divided in between 2 other teachers, that is Mrs. Mumtaz Hussain and Mrs. Azra Parveen. So, you see, before we come to the poem, the first poem, that is a lecture upon shadows, it is essential for us to have an idea of the major trends and movements in English poetry in order to be able to understand, appreciate, and analyze the poems in our course. You see, from time to time, while doing the poems, I'd be referring to, these major trends and movements. So please take it seriously. Now, let's begin this introduction to English poetry, and I try to give you an idea of poetry as a whole and English poetry in particular, right from the beginning up to, say, the 1970 or 1980. In this voice note, if time permits, I try to cover English poetry up to the 17th century, because the voice notes must be short enough, that is, they should be limited up to roughly about 15 MB in order to be easily downloaded or uploaded. So let's start. You see, poetry is the beginning of all learning and all literature, and it all started in Greece. Homer, as history tells us, is believed to be the first great world poet. There may have been other poets as well, but Homer comes in the category of great poets. And he composed various poems, 2 of which are considered to be great poetry. One is entitled Iliad, Iliad, and the other is called Odyssey, that is Odyssey, Odyssey. Now, these 2 poems were composed in Greek. At that time, the poets used to wander, or rather roam, from street to street singing their verses, or the poetry was sung. The poems or the verses were sung or recited during the wartime in order to encourage the soldiers. At that time, the language had no regular written form. There was only the spoken version available. And so, this oral tradition of singing poetry is believed to be the beginning of all learning and all literature. Remember, English poetry is full of references to Greek mythology, and English poets have even, paid tribute to Homer as well. So, while we do the poems here and there, the reference to this would be made. Now, let's come to Europe then. You see, in Europe, and we'll talk of England in particular. In England, Saxons migrated from Europe to England in the 6th century, and they brought with them their rich culture and rich language called Saxon language. And a Saxon language, that is Saxon, Saxon language. Now, you see, one of their poems is considered to be great. That is called Beowulf. 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 By 1066 in England, we had the Norman conquest, and from 1066 up to 1400, we had a period called Middle Ages, Medieval Era, or Dark Ages. Now, this period, is known as Dark Ages because there was hardly any development of science and learning during this period. Superstition and magic prevailed everywhere, and the church was dominating, and the clergy was corrupt. Now, the two great poets of this time, Langland, one word, Langland, sorry, Langland, and Gower, Gower. These two are two great poets of the medieval era. They composed romances, and by the way, they are not considered English poets, because the dialect in which they wrote was not recognized as standard English. We'll come to that later. But they composed romances. Romances, in fact, are kind of, creative writings in verse, long writing in verse form, and they are full of superstition, unbelievable events, fairies, ghosts, magic, and so on. You see, you may have come across a reference to magic casements in Keats's Ode to a Nightingale last session. So we'll have references to it while doing Coleridge. Now, the one thing is that though romances were, based on larger than life experiences, still they are rich storehouse of wisdom and knowledge, and so we value them and read them. And by the way, the word romance has nothing romantic about it. Initially, the word romance is derived from the word Rome, and it is applied to a group of languages that were all offshoots of Latin and spoken in and around Rome. These were a group of 5 languages, that is Romanian, Italian, Portuguese, French, and Spanish. So they were called Romance languages. However, when we apply this term romance, we refer to a work in verse which deals with, let's say, which is remote in time from us, and which is which presents experiences which are larger than life. I have already talked about romances. So the experiences that they narrate are far removed from real life. That is why they are called remote. Now, coming to a very important development during this time, a certain poet called Geoffrey Chaucer. Geoffrey Chaucer, Geoffry, Geoffrey Chaucer, Chaucer. Geoffrey Chaucer was, born in 1340, and he died in exactly 1400. He's considered to be the father of English poetry and English literature. The dialect in which he composed his verses um, was called Southeast Midland dialect, and it was just by chance that this dialect later on came to be recognized as standard English. So, he became the father of English poetry and English literature. Well, dear students, it's been about 13 minutes that I've been talking to you. Now, I think I should close this voice note here. So we'll keep talking about Chaucer in the next voice note. So for the time being, it's goodbye from me.
12:43. Phone button. Swipe with 2 fingers to unlock device unlocked. Edit box. Voice up ND news. Voice record memo. Video. Memo. Voice recorder. Voice recorder. Pause button.